One of my favourite Blu-ray labels recently announced that a number of their titles are going out of print very soon, which is a sad thing, but they are having a sale to commemorate these titles and give you a last chance to get a hold of them. The label that I'm talking about is, of course, Eureka Entertainment, and I have 6 films here to talk about. If you do want to pick up any of the films that I'm about to talk about, then head over to Eureka's website where they are holding this out-of-print sale until the end of this month. And you can pick them up 2 for £20 or £11 each. If it shows as out of stock on the website, I've been told by Eureka that they are constantly monitoring and replenishing the stock if they have it available. So if it says out of stock when you go on the website, keep an eye on it because they might actually bring some back in stock. So first up, we'll talk about one of the crazier titles here. It's Monkey Shines. This is a film from George A. Romero, the very famous director from the Night of the Living Dead film, Dawn of the Dead, all those great zombie movies. And here he was making a film that is about, well, as the title would suggest, monkeys. The story follows this man who is injured in an accident and he is a quadriplegic, so he's paralysed from the neck down. And the scientists in this movie have come up with this new methodology of using monkeys to assist people who are not fully able, which seems like a great idea at first. Everything goes swimmingly, but then it seems like something isn't quite right with this one particular monkey, and things go south very quickly. Of course, there's elements of horror here, as it is George A. Romero. Tom Savini doing the practical effects. There's a load of great special features on this Eureka disc. There's a bunch of commentaries, and there's a great making of documentary where all of the people involved with the film have been interviewed and are looking back on the film. While it certainly isn't George A. Romero's best film, there's a lot going on in this film to make it interesting, and I think fans of horror in particular probably will want to own this in their collection. Moving in a different direction now, another of these out-of-print titles from Eureka is Coming Home. This is the Hal Ashby movie about a Vietnam War veteran who has come back from the war with a disability and is really struggling to adjust to this new life. The story also follows the wife of a soldier who has just departed to go to the war in Vietnam. So it's all about her interactions with this Vietnam vet who has this disability. And it is a very good film indeed. I think in any hands other than Hal Ashby's, this would have been an overly sentimental kind of film. But his filmmaking style is able to get so much truth out of the story, and the way he directs actors and frames a scene, and the use of music in his films as well, really does create a unique style. It's funny because when I was going through these films over the weekend to talk about in this video, I actually realised that quite a lot of these films have overarching themes or just certain little things that connect them. And I guess you could connect this back to Monkey Shines because it's about a person trying to adjust to life with a new disability. So while they are very different films, you could certainly do a double bill of Coming Home with Monkey Shines. And there's a bunch of special features on here. There's a new exclusive commentary for this release. There's an older commentary with the actors and filmmakers, and there's some behind the scenes stuff on the disc as well. So well worth having, and I think Hal Ashby is just one of the greatest filmmakers of that period. Another of the Masters of Cinema titles in this out-of-print sale from Eureka is Birdman of Alcatraz. This is starring Burt Lancaster, directed by the great John Frankenheimer. This is such an incredible film with a central performance from Burt Lancaster, which it blows me away today, but I could imagine at the time that this was released, it must have been absolutely like a top-tier performance. It follows this prisoner who is put in solitary confinement because he murders a prison guard, and we see his life over the years in solitary confinement. And one day he comes across this small bird that is injured in the prison yard. He decides to take it back to his cell and try to nurse it back to health. And he becomes obsessed with ornithology and looking after birds and creating bird cages, and he eventually goes on to become an expert in the field. And this is based on a true story, by the way, which makes it even more, such an incredible story. As always with the Masters of Cinema discs, you get a bunch of special features, a commentary, some extra video appreciation of the film. There's a lot to sink your teeth into here, and I highly recommend this to any fans of classic 1960s American cinema. And sticking with 1960s American cinema, we have Inherit the Wind. This is Stanley Kramer's film about an intriguing court case between a school teacher and a fundamentalist leader who opposes the teacher's ideas of teaching Darwinism in school. This was such a fiery topic at the time of making the film and still remains such a big issue in America today. So it makes a very enjoyable watch and also quite an interesting look at the minds of people in this debate. The central performances from Spencer Tracy, Frederick March and Gene Kelly are all absolutely brilliant in this film. And again, there's the subtle link to one of the other films I talked about before, because this of course has a monkey, a chimpanzee, and so you could double bill it with Monkey Shines, I guess. This is one of the Eureka Classics discs, not the Masters of Cinema line. And the only bad thing about this disc really is there isn't that much in terms of special features. In fact, there is only one video interview on here, so there's no audio commentary. So that's something to keep in mind if you want to pick up this film. Another great film that is included in this out of print sale from Eureka is Salvador, the film from Oliver Stone. The film follows a photojournalist played by James Woods who travels to South America during a civil war in El Salvador. And when he gets down there, he realizes that he's in far too deep and in a lot of trouble. So that really amps up the drama in this story. He ends up going there out of desperation because his life is falling apart. He has no money, so he feels like he has to go there to report on the war. The film is really a searing take on conflict journalism and the ethics of journalism during wartime. And it's also a massive takedown of North American interference in global conflict that perhaps they shouldn't be involved in, which was a massive talking point during the 1980s when this came out, and also happens to be a massive talking point today in 2023. So you can watch this today and it can end up being quite eerily relevant. I think this is actually James Woods' best performance. And while the film might sound quite depressing due to the nature of the topic that it's handling, it's actually got moments of comedy sprinkled in there as well. Jim Belushi plays the side character to James Woods and, gives a great performance in this. There's a great audio commentary with Oliver Stone on the disc. There's a rare interview with him from the time of making this. And then there's also a behind-the-scenes documentary on the making of the film itself. So there's tons to get into here. And again, you could make this a double bill with perhaps Coming Home, the Hal Ashby movie, because they are both anti-war movies for sure. So the last of these MGM titles that are going out of print from Eureka is Under Fire. This is another wartime movie about journalism and the ethics of journalism during war. In many ways, this is very similar to Oliver Stone's Salvador. It's set in Nicaragua. We follow Nick Nolte, Gene Hackman, and Joanna Cassidy as they are there reporting on the war. And at first, Nick Nolte's character has a very detached approach to the war. He feels like he's not involved with the conflict. He is purely there just to document it and share the news. But as time goes on, he gets more and more involved with the people who are fighting in this conflict. There's also a strange love triangle in this movie, which I'm not quite sure it works, and I think it might detract from the overall themes of the movie, but I still found this a very enjoyable movie, a very powerful anti-war movie. One reason that I would recommend this to people, and that I particularly love it for, is that it was shot by John Alcott, who famously worked with Stanley Kubrick. He shot Barry Lyndon, so the film looks beautiful. It really, really does. A very well shot on location, very well lit and everything. So it's just a very nice film to look at, regardless of the subject matter of the movie. On the disc, you get 2 audio commentaries, and there's an interview with Joanna Cassidy looking back at the making of this film. So again, I would recommend this to anyone who sounds like this is your kind of thing, and you could double bill it with perhaps Salvador or Coming Home. So that was a quick look at these 6 titles that are sadly going out of print from Eureka. So don't hesitate to go over to their website now if you do want to pick these up. If you want to hear more about Eureka Blu-rays, click the video that's on screen now and you can get more film recommendations from me. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you soon.